Welcome back to Strike Fighters 2 North Vietnam. We're finally back for a new campaign in the career of our favorite North Vietnamese pilot, Nguyen Van Coke. Nguyen's moved from Phu Quyen to the newly created fighter squadron, the 923rd, based out of Kep Air Base, which is 40 miles northeast of Hanoi. And he's been upgraded from the old afterburnerless MiG-17 to the new Chinese-built J-5, which is the Chinese version of the MiG-17F, or Fresco C, which added an afterburner to the VK1 engine to produce another around 1,500 pounds of thrust. So that'll be very exciting. So, let's get down to business, take a look at the first mission in our new aircraft. First of all, we are part of the First Flight 923rd Yen Tay Fighter Regiment, like I said, based out of Kep. This was the second of Vietnam's all-jet fighter squadrons, and the first being the 921st out of Phu Quyen, which is where we were based previously. The 923rd was organized this month, actually, September of 1965, when a new batch of 30 pilots came out of their training in China, doubling the number of Vietnamese pilots available. So, jumped from 30 to 60 pilots, roughly, and so they formed a second squadron, and because Nguyen Van Coke was doing so good, they decided to shift him over to spread out the experience amongst the new pilots. So that's why we've been moved over here. Now, in real life, he never made that move. He stayed with the 921st through his entire flying career, from 1965 till 1968, when he was taken off the front line and sent back to train more pilots. But here in the game, we're going to move him all over North Vietnam so that we can, get into all the different aircraft. It is September 1st, 1965, so we're now, I think, 7 months into the American War. Our mission today is going to be to intercept an enemy flight approaching the Cang To barracks, that's down by Tan Hoa, prevent the enemy flight from reaching its target. Call sign is the Mon Tung flight. We'll be flying 8 J-5 Frescos, takeoff time of 9:42 in the morning, down around the target by 10:01, back to Kep Air Base 10:15. Over to the loadout. We are Mon Tung Flight, I'm Aircraft 1, and we are equipped with J-5 Fresco Cs. No individual markings. Paint scheme is going to be VPAF Camo 2, and this is the first time that we'll be rocking sort of the iconic camouflage pattern of the Vietnamese People's Air Force. This is what the Americans refer to as the snakeskin paint scheme. Full fuel and ammo, and I've equipped the squadron with 2 400-liter drop tanks for a total takeoff weight of 13,070 pounds. Normal combat range for a J-5/MiG-17 is 670 miles. With the additional drop tanks, that gets us out to 1,035. So the tanks add an extra 365 miles, but still we would consider the MiGs to be a very short-range interceptor. Over to our map now. Here we are, the 923rd Yen Tay Fighter Regiment, out of Kep Air Base. Like I said, about 40 miles northeast of Hanoi. We've got 20 J-5s on site, with a supply of only 54%, so nothing has changed in that department. North Vietnamese Air Force always fighting against low supply. Pilots and aircraft always at a premium. Looking around real quick at some of the other squadrons in the area. Down here at Quien An, we've got the AN-2 Colts, which are transport and supply biplanes, with another squadron up here at Yen Bai to the northwest, and the third at Gaya Lam just south of us, next to the river there. But if we take a look over at Phu Quyen, we can see a crap load of MiGs, all out of the 921st Fighter Regiment. Here's the first flight with MiG-17 Fresco A's, that's the squadron we just left from. Here's the third flight with J-5 Frescos, second flight with base MiG-17s again, and the fourth flight with true blue MiG-17Fs from the Soviet Union. So we'll be taking off out of Kep. We've got 8 aircraft to get into the air, so it's going to take a few minutes to get marshaled up. So I'm going to make a climbing left turn up to the north towards the Chinese border, staying in this safe zone while we get everybody up off the ground and on my wings before we curve back around, ending up at waypoint 3, climbing up to over 13,000 feet. 13.6 is just over about 4,000 meters, so I'm going to say 4,500 meters for cruising altitude today. So that's what we'll be climbing up to as we head towards waypoint 3. After we hit waypoint 3, then it's down to the south towards Cang To, And we should be flying over that just about 16, 17 minutes into the mission. It's shown here as an airbase, but it's actually an army barracks. And it's going to be straight down south after that to our objective point, which is going to be right on the outskirts of the city of Tan Hoa. And this is the Ma River going right by it. So we'll be on the lookout for that as an easy navigational aid to see where we're going. Now once we're here, we're going to have very little fuel to stay on station, so the American aircraft will be coming in from either the ocean or from the south, so we'll only have a few minutes available to try to shoot down our primary targets. And once they're either down or we've gotten too low on fuel, we're going to make our exit up to the northeast and head back to Kep along the coastline, passing by Nam Dinh and then Haiphong, and then circling back around to land at Kep. Finally, over to our roster now. And with 8 aircraft, it's going to be a busy one. Lots of confusing new names, unfamiliar pilots that we're going to have to get used to. I'm going to do my best to get through this. But we're going to take this journey together. Since we're beginning a new campaign, let's take a look at our pilot's stats to see where he stood at the end of the last campaign. So here we have Nguyen Van Koch. Fun fact about our pilot's name, I was just reading something that was saying that something like 2/3 of the entire country of Vietnam actually has the surname Nguyen, and it's pronounced differently in the north versus the south because they have different dialects. But you have Nguyen or Nguyen, I think I saw, but Nguyen is the accepted English variation of the name, and that's how all my friends pronounced it. So I'm going to stick with Nguyen for the duration because it reminds me of my buddies. Our rank is Junior Lieutenant still. We have a total score of 6450 with a rating of 44%, whatever that is actually means. I'm not really sure. Here's the important stuff. We have 22 total kills, all of which are aircraft. No vehicles, no buildings, no friendly fire, luckily. And we've been shot down 0 times so far, which is sort of surprising, honestly. But it's a good thing. That gives us a kill ratio currently of 22-0. We have a total time in the air of 3 hours, 20 minutes, and 24 seconds. And our last type flown was the MiG-17 Fresco A. And we have flown 6 missions, 4 of which were successful for a 67% success rate. My wingman in Montung 2 is going to be Second Lieutenant Mai Hu Ni with 19 combat missions. My number 3 will be Lieutenant Win Qua Tan. Oh no. Win Qua Tan. And my number 4 will be Lieutenant Lam Quang Di. Lam Quang Dai. Leading the second element is going to be the squadron commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Pham Quoc Nai. He's got 29 combat missions, but only 4 air-to-air kills, so he'll be one of the guys we're going to be keeping an eye on to try to get him to become an ace as soon as possible as we go through this campaign. His wingman, Second Lieutenant Win Hoi Dai. His number 3, Second Lieutenant Pham Tan Chow. And finally, his number 4, Lieutenant Win Doc Bao. Whew, that was rough, but I got through it. I did my best, and that's all you can ask for. Alright, we have a busy day ahead of us, lots to do, so let's not waste any more time. Let's head out to the flight line, get our MiGs ready to go. I'll see you out on the runway. Here we are out on the runway of our new airbase in our Snakeskin J-5, ready to go. There's our clearance from the tower. And that's the city of Kep out to our left there, just south of the airbase, just behind my guys on the taxiway. Let's get rolling now. Full power on the VK1 engine. RPM and fuel flow coming up. And then we jam it full forward into the afterburner position. And we're off. This is our first afterburner-assisted MiG-17 takeoff. Past 200 kilometers an hour. There's 250. About time to rotate. A better view of Kep out to the left.
Có người cảm tướng ra qua khỏi số 1 rồi. Cảm tướng như Điệp viên 007. Hiểu rồi.
And as we circle around, you've probably noticed by now that we're actually hearing Vietnamese over the radio, which is a cool feature that I'm really glad to be able to add. This is the Vietnamese voice pack from a mod for Strike Fighters 1 from many, many years ago, and I was directed to this by one of my viewers, Zerjan Andrich, or Andrich. So thanks again so much for that. I didn't think that there were any Vietnamese voice packs out there. I was searching and searching, and none were coming up, and I was about to make my own. I was set to spend hours and hours producing my own voice pack, using some of the other international voice packs as a template. I mean, I went as far as setting up the audio program recording file and downloading any sort of like Vietnamese yelling or Vietnamese lines I could find off of YouTube. So different voice packs from different video games, anything that just sounded like it would work. I even put word out through my theater connections to see if there was anybody that I knew who actually speaks Vietnamese, because I was ready to have them come over and just start recording all of the lines as necessary so I could edit them together. So I had a monumental task ahead of me, and it turns out someone had done that, you know, a decade or so ago. So here it is. I'm very happy to be able to use a voice pack that is correct. It's not Chinese. It's not something that just sounds close enough. Even if the phrases may not be right, it is at least the right language, and that's, you know, that's what I really wanted to do if I was going to use a voice pack. So I'm happy to get away from the English one, use something that's appropriate for the language, and also I really like how terrible the quality of the radio calls are. That would have been very true to life for this time. American radios were notorious for not working and having very bad quality, and the Soviet radios must have been 100 times worse. So what we're doing now is we're just going to run one pattern around the airbase, and then we're going to depart out to the west and climb up to altitude. In September of '65, the war was still in its very early stages. The first SA-2 SAMs had just come online back in July, a couple months ago, and had shot down their first U.S. aircraft at the end of the month. Counterattacks by the Air Force and the Navy caused little damage and had resulted in more lost aircraft. The U.S. was only incrementally increasing its attacks on North Vietnam as President Johnson and SecDef McNamara were worried about drawing China and the Soviet Union into the war, exactly what had happened in Korea only 15 years before. Vietnamese airfields and the city of Hanoi were off limits. Here in September, the Joint Chiefs of Staff will recommend widening Operation Rolling Thunder, but the plan will be rejected by the White House. This allowed the North Vietnamese to continue gathering their strength, mostly unhindered. Pilots were sent to China for fighter training, while missiles, aircraft, and AAA weapons continued to flow into Vietnam on the railroads from China. They assessed the American strategy looking for weaknesses. They noticed the areas that the U.S. planes avoided and began to stage low-altitude intercepts from those areas. This began the hit-and-run strategy adopted by the VPAF for most of the war. Staying below 2,500 feet hid the planes from U.S. airborne radars, and VPAF air bases were beyond the range of ground radars, so MiGs could take off and marshal unobserved. Due to the White House's reluctance, it would be some time before the U.S. military were able to take steps to counter these Vietnamese tactics. Okay, we're under the guidance of the tactical ground controllers, and they're letting us know that there are American aircraft on the early warning radars on their way in. We've been getting updates for a couple of minutes now, and I'm advancing the waypoint to waypoint 3, and we're going to head down to the southwest. Got the HUD on so that we can see where the waypoint is exactly. And we can secure that now. Full power for the climb up to 4,500 meters. We're at 3,300 right now, so not too much further to go. We'll climb up and over the capital as we head down to the south. More wingmen around us getting into formation. And we're just on our way up, up, up. There's 4,300 meters. Approaching 44, I'm letting the nose drop down so we halt our ascent so quickly. We'll slow that down. You can sort of see the VSI behind the gun sight coming down a little bit. There's the edge of 4,500. Perfect. Nice and easy. We'll come back to level. We'll drop slightly back down. And we'll pull it back to 400 pounds per hour on the fuel flow gauge. Montoon flight is spread out behind me. They should be hopefully getting into formation quickly so I can talk about that. And there's the spread of Hanoi out to our left. Well, this guy's not in the right position. Oh, I think... Okay, yeah, they're in the wrong formation. I ordered them into a formation before and I must hit the wrong button. So let's reorder them. Flight 1, formation. And number 5 we want. Same thing with Flight 2, formation. And then we're going to press number 5. It's not actually the box formation. We'll explain what it is in just a minute. There we go. Looks like they're getting into the correct positions that I need them in. So this is one of the things that I was really excited to roll out in this new series in the North Vietnamese campaign, and that is the new North Vietnamese fighter formations. So what I've done is I've modified the in-game formations to reflect the correct VPAF formations in the Vietnam War. The entire philosophy of the Soviet intercept system was very different from the West's, and that led to fundamentally different fighter formations, because they were trying to achieve different things. In the US, pilots had a great deal of freedom, and flight leaders were expected to direct the squadron from the front lines. This led to the standard formations of Finger 4 in the Air Force and the Fighting Pairs of the Navy. These formations offered better mutual support for the free-ranging Americans, balancing an offensive and defensive approach. Vietnamese pilots, like all of those of the countries under Soviet influence, were under strict control from ground controllers. GCI controllers used radar to vector fighters, moving them around behind targets and giving the orders to attack and disengage. Because they were under radar control, the VPAF formations didn't need to rely exclusively on a flight leader or to stress protection. The formations were purely offensive. If a turning dogfight broke out, the Vietnamese simply abandoned formations entirely, and each aircraft fought independently. There were 3 basic combat formations: high-low pairs, trail, and stacked 3. Our squadron is set up in stacked 3 right now. 3 MiGs would fly in a widely spaced zigzag pattern, each about a mile apart and at varying altitudes. When the radar operators gave the order to attack, the lead MiG would dive in and engage the targets first. The second MiG, high and right, would be in perfect position to engage the US aircraft if they made their standard defensive move, which was to make a break, descending if possible. The third MiG was the flight commander, as from behind he could see both wingmen's attacks. When the GCI turned over control of the attack to him, he became the airborne coordinator of his wingmen. He could move to assist either wingman's attacks or clear their six if need be, based on what he saw. Because in the game we tend to have flights of 4 instead of 3, I've put the 4th MiG in the next zigzag position behind me, high and right. The other formation was the high-low pairs. One pair of MiGs flew close formation at one altitude, while the second pair flew a mile behind, 3,500 feet above or below. Again, the flight lead was usually in the rear to coordinate attacks. The first pair would attack a U.S. flight to create a defensive move or to draw off the escorts. The second pair would make a follow-up attack, and with the American pilots distracted by the first pair, the second pair often would get in undetected. MiG-21s, which operated higher and faster than the MiG-17s, adopted a version of this formation called high-low singles, operating with only 2 aircraft instead of the 4. Trail formations were used by both MiG types, with aircraft following in a line one behind another. Again commanded from the rear, as one aircraft broke off, the next could begin his attack, creating a non-stop stream of attacking aircraft. The MiG-17s later used the trail formation to fly in a defensive circle, which the Americans called wagon wheels. Wagon wheels first appeared in early 1967. Experience had shown the North Vietnamese that the best way to engage F-4s was to draw them into a low-speed turning fight. MiG-17s would wait at low altitude, circling over heavy AAA along F-105 bombing routes. The MiGs were spaced evenly around the wheel so that each aircraft covered the one in front. If an escort F-4 wanted to try to get a shot in, he would have to slow down to slot in between 2 MiGs. The low altitude rendered both the Sparrow and Sidewinder missiles almost completely useless, and without a gun to engage, all the F-4s could do was to weave in and out of the circle, avoiding cannon fire from behind. MiGs would break out in singles to attack bomber aircraft, then return to the safety of the wheel. The use of double wagon wheels at multiple altitudes, coordinated with AAA and SAMs, significantly frustrated U.S. attacks for much of 1967, until U.S. commanders in the field were forced to come up with new tactics and equipment. Finally, late in the war, single MiG-21s would roam the battlefield with their IFF transponders turned off. These pilots operated on their own in radio silence, with no GCI assistance, and would attack U.S. formations from the rear. U.S. intelligence suspected that these were the VPAF's best pilots, making them dangerous to engage, even when alone. There's Nam Dinh out to my left. Small town / city of Phu Lai. Out there to the left as well. So we're coming up on waypoint 4, and once we reach that, I'm going to turn down to the south towards Thanh Hoa. And one of the things that we're going to do is going to be to drop altitude as we get closer to the city. In fact, there's waypoint 4 now, heading to waypoint 5, which is down to the south. Almost due south, actually. So we're coming around. There's the city of Thanh Hoa. There's the Ma River in the upper right-hand corner there. We're going to come right on to course there. There's number 3 holding position as we continue the turn. So we want to get nice and low in altitude because we're probably very visible on American ship radar and probably on F-4 Phantom radar. They're coming in off the ocean, and we want to be able to negate their ability to use their long-range missiles against us. We have no radar warning receivers in these aircraft. We would have no idea when they've even fired their missiles. So staying low and fast is going to protect us against not only radar-guided missiles, but also infrared, because the early Sidewinders easily disrupted by the ground return. They were not able to track enemy exhaust targets as well as modern Sidewinders can. So down we go, and we're going to start being on the lookout for incoming American aircraft. There's number 2 out in front of us, also holding position through the dive, Second Lieutenant Mai. Primary targets, 11 o'clock. They're still 50 miles out, down at 5,000 feet. So I think we still have a few minutes before we intercept them. several friendly squadrons out of Fujian out to our right, MiG-17s. We're all going to be in the same area. Looks like 2 or 3 different flights out there coming into the city around the same time we are. There they are. I see just a couple of them. A whole bunch of them, actually, out in the distance. Looks like they're breaking formation or changing formation. They're reporting bandits. Flak out to my upper left. U.S. aircraft crossing right over us. 12 o'clock high. Looks like an F4. Flight 2, engage air. Alright, sending the second flight after the enemy escorts. Primary target's still 11 o'clock, 50 miles out. So I'm taking flight 1. We're going to go low and fast and head out towards the strike aircraft. Friendly squadrons out to my back and right, as well as Flight 2, led by Lieutenant Colonel Pham, should, I'm hoping, be able to engage these escort aircraft and keep them busy and off our back. We've got missile launches, more flak out to the upper left, and tracers. Is that another Phantom? I think it is. Not our primary target. I want to try to avoid them as long as possible. Primary target's only 25 miles away now, just out to the left here, 10 o'clock. Full power without going into afterburner. There's the Ma River just out to the left. There's Tanhua. Another aircraft, enemy aircraft. Looks like another F4 out to the upper left. F4s from VF-96 are what's engaging behind us. 15 miles now to the primary targets. They're dead ahead. And I've not targeted them yet. I want to get them targeted as soon as possible because, again, as flight leader, it's my responsibility to assign my flight members to specific targets. I want to try to do that more this time. Early warning radar down there, about 1 o'clock low. 8 miles now. They should be within visual range now, less than 10 miles. A4 Skyhawk. There they are. Okay, let's start assigning guys to attack these targets. 3 and 4 have them. Up and around behind these guys. We're going to make use of this afterburner for sure this time. There's a different A4 targeted. Let's send the wingman after him, and then up and over around behind, and we'll select the third target. Somebody's firing already. Good news. Yeah, look at that. Green tracers out to the left. Probably number 3. One of our Lieutenant Nguyen's. There he is. Look at this. These guys slid in right behind these A4s here. I'm firewall trying to keep up. Oh, he got one. A4 spiraling down. Pieces coming off of it as 3 breaks off. Oh, there's another one. I think that's 2 in front of us. Second Lieutenant Mai sliding in on the leader of the Skyhawks. And our turn. We're going to start popping off rounds towards the number 4 tail end Charlie position. And he's evading a little bit. We are coming in hot. Come on. Another one down off to the left. J-5 breaking off the pursuit. Fireball going down. Oh, now he slides in on the number 4 position. Alright, you take him. Oh, looks like maybe he broke off. And either they just hit their initial point or they're taking evasive action. Hard to tell which. But either way, if they're on their bombing run, we have even less time to catch up now. Still have plenty of fuel. popping the external tanks. I think maybe the drag is holding me back because I'm having a real problem catching up here. And I need to do so. I'm really pleased that the wingmen are in position and making these kills on their own. I'm just assigning targets and they're getting in there and taking care of business. Bingo! 4 is down, and there goes 2 down off to my left. Looks like they clipped his tail. And he's slowly spinning in. Actually, he still might be flying. I think he's still flying, but he's definitely trailing fuel, and he knocked all the weapons off of him, so he's probably going to try to egress, but I'm going to slide in right behind him here for the killing blow. If I can actually manage to hit. Come on! What was that? Tracers in front and behind him. There we go. Sayonara, sucker. Alright, let's get Flight 1 back together. Who knows what other enemy aircraft in the area. Oh no, one of my guys has been hit. Don't know where, don't know who. But somebody's taking damage. Somebody else is firing. Oh, another hit! Oh! Flaming fireball, 12 o'clock high. Looks like 2 or maybe 3 American aircraft in pursuit. Everybody engage air. Let's send all of our guys into the fray. And we have Crusaders. Much easier to tangle with than the F4s. Oh, as my guy slams into the ground out in the background. We're gonna take some revenge on this Crusader pilot. Twisting and turning right over Tan Hoa. If it was later in the war, we'd have a huge assist from AAA, but it's still a little bare bones this early in the war. Missiles streaking by. 2 of them. There goes a second. Whoa, somebody's popping flip. Holy shit, that was blue on blue. An American just shot down another American. Did you see those flares pop? That F-8 Crusader on the upper right just knocked down one of his buddies. I have 2 targets right in front here. Let's go with this guy. I can't believe we just saw that happen. Holy hell. Oh, very, very close. I could spit on this guy. Holy shit. Alright, just slide right into my sights. Nice and easy. That's been a while since I have flown, and I'm not used to this bullet drop. There we go! Crusader down. Tuck back and around. Closest target is an F4C. That's an Air Force F4. Unfortunately, I don't know where that gaggle of Crusaders went. Looks like this F4 is tangling with one of my guys. Or possibly one of the Fujian MiG-17s. Tracers coming up from the upper left. Oh, because I have a Crusader behind me. 4 calls bingo fuel as I'm scissoring around behind this guy. Or we're just going to continue the turn, actually. We do have the advantage of the tight turning now. 2, get in here, cover my ass. Still have plenty of fuel. But we have to keep an eye on that. It's 111 miles back to Kep Air Base, so we can't tangle for too long. We don't have the fuel reserves for it. Especially with this afterburner that I'm firewalled into right now to catch up with this F8. I am really loath to take long-range shots because I probably only have 1 or 2 bursts left in these guns. Oh shit, I'm out of 37mm. I heard it. I heard the big bang stop, and we only have Friendly coming in 12 o'clock. Holy shit. Oh, man. Alright, so we have maybe 1 or 2 bursts left of 23mm. I gotta get in right on top of this dude to even have a hope of hitting him. Oh. And I missed out, clipped him. Pieces coming off. Some sort of control surface is flying through the air. Come on, killing blow. Oh, I'm out of ammo. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Alright, we're out of here. There's no more good I can do. That guy gets to live to fight another day. Everybody, get back on my wing. We're heading to the north and getting the hell out of here. Fully loaded F8 still up to my left. And F4 circling around to the south of Tan Hoa. Maybe coming in on my tail. Hard to tell. Let's reiterate everyone to get back together. You can see the flight scattered all over the coastline here, which is not good. Alright, I see a couple of dots behind me circling in, probably Americans. Let's drag them over the city. Squeeze a few extra knots out of that engine, if possible. Maybe some AAA in the city will deter the Americans from chasing us. Oh, more missiles still flying through the air. And it's this guy who's firing. I just saw it. He's up and to my right. This is VF-84, by the way. This is a different F4 squadron than 96 that we saw earlier. So we have multiple squadrons of F4s. Oh, here's the guy who's firing. He's right on one of my guys. But you'll notice that all the missiles keep going stupid because our really low altitude is playing real havoc with that F4's radar. So if we can just get the F4s to fire all their missiles, then that's it. They have no guns, they'll have no more offensive capability, and they'll have no choice but to bug out and head back to the boat. More calls from friendlies for bingo fuel from the Fujian squadrons. Rip-roaring over the city of Ninh Binh now, staying nice and low. There's AAA in the city. Kangto Army Base is just out to the left, which will have a ton of AAA, so I'm trying to use these different ground-based pockets of anti-air fire to help protect us so that we can get back up to Kep Air Base. In fact, let's just set the waypoint to 8. So final waypoint. I have an F4 Phantom less than 2 miles right on my tail here. Looks like he's only got a couple of Sparrows left, though. There he is. He actually might not be engaging with me. He might be following somebody else out to the left, one of the other MiG-17s. Not one of my guys, though. Less than 80% fuel now. Good thing we're on our way home. Montoon flight spread out behind me. I'm only seeing 3, 4, 5 aircraft at the moment. Did we lose 3 MiGs? Man, I hope not. I think maybe I saw 2 for sure. So maybe there was a third that was lost when I wasn't paying attention. That is a possibility. There we go, there's 3 sliding into position, so we still have him. That's Lieutenant Nguyen. Is Second Lieutenant Mai still out there? Just in case we're going to pull up just a little bit. I don't know. I don't want the AI to fly into the ground. That number 2 position, he's out in front of me, so I don't want. I don't think that he'll fly into the ground, but let's not press my luck. I hear the sound of a VK-1 somewhere. That might be Second Lieutenant Mai passing under me. Yes, it is. There he is. Alright, so we got 2, we got 3 with us. They're sliding right into position. The Second Lieutenant Lamb still out there. That's my number 4. I guess we'll find out. Nearest bad guys, 5 o'clock at 15 miles. He's picking up a bit of flak. Oh, there's an F8 behind him. Looks like they're diving in on something. Maybe they're out over Nam Dinh behind us. Well, there's Hanoi out to the left. I think that's Gaya Lam Air Base directly ahead of us, which is another bastion of AAA, so let's head directly for that. And we'll use that to maybe fight off any bad guys that are still hanging with us, in case we can't lose them. Okay, they're 20 miles out now. Back behind us, 5 o'clock. If we can just get the Montoon flight back home, that's all I'm worried about right now. And we're down to 60% fuel. As Kep is just coming into view ahead of us, there's Hanoi out to the left. Red River right beneath us. Oof. Friendly's still soaking up missiles out there. But I think my guys, the ones who remain, are looking good. We're pretty safe. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. So 2. We're missing the. We're missing Second Lieutenant Lamb, and we're missing the 4th aircraft of the second flight as well. So I think our 2 tail end Charlies were the guys that bought it. Alright, we've got radar contact. We're being shuffled over to the approach controller off of the tactical controller. Guys are still with me in formation. And plenty of fuel left. We're going to keep the speed up. For the most part in the American campaigns, so far at least, doing the overhead brakes has been mostly just for show and for tradition / realism. But here in the Vietnamese campaigns, they're like utilitarian. They are for real, because so many times we're being dogged by American aircraft as we're trying to land, and that's the whole point. Centralizing your brakes over the airbase, which has lots of AAA, to protect you from any enemies in the area. So that's sort of been the story of these Vietnamese campaigns so far, is being chased all the way back to the airbase. Maybe not so much today, but you never know when somebody's going to pop up. Some American, wandering through North Vietnam here. Alright, turning over towards the airbase. Guys maintaining formation as we come around to land into the wind. here on runway 9. The wind was at 120 at 5 knots when we took off, so we actually took off with a 5-knot tailwind, so the map had us coming in from the other direction to land on 27. I'm not going to do that. We're just going to fly right over here and call for the brake and circle around to land into the wind, runway 9. Monsoon flight. Brake for landing. Monsoon 1 in the brake. Air brakes out. Less than 400 kilometers an hour. Gears down and locked. And we're slow enough for flaps as we roll out on downwind.
Mấy thằng sẽ để ở sau mình.
We're a little high, but I've pulled way back on the power, and we'll just drift down through the pattern. And once we're a beam of the landing area, we'll make that turn to final. Right about there, actually. Here we go, still at 250 kilometers per hour. Stall speed is 200, so we want to be right above that as we're coming in. But we still have a lot of altitude to shed. Luckily we have a nice long runway, so I'm not too concerned about it. Rolling out center line. Nose up just a tad. Dropping down to just at 200 kilometers an hour. Bit of stall buffet right as a touchdown with the main wheels. Oh, my mistake. This is actually runway 12. It's actually not directly east-west. That's interesting. So many of the runways in this game are either directly north-south or directly east-west, but this one is neither. Brakes in, wheel brakes engaged. Shift 0 opens the canopy, and we are safely back down on the deck. Or the asphalt in this case. Pretty successful mission, I think. Alright, we'll see you back over in the debriefing, and we'll go through this mission in detail. Alright, let's take a look at what went down here. Our mission objective for the very first combat sortie, actually, of the 923rd Yen-Tay Fighter Regiment was to intercept the enemy flight approaching the Kangto Barracks, prevent the enemy flight from reaching its target. Flight time was 39 minutes and 45 seconds. Result, 4 primary targets were destroyed. Those are those A4C Skyhawks. 2 additional enemy aircraft were destroyed. 2 J-5s were lost. But overall rating success, score of 1,300 points. Fucking A right. Okay, Second Lieutenant Van Koch got 3 kills. I got 3 kills, 2 with the 37mm cannon and 1 with the 23mm cannon. Expending all of my ammo for 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 hits. So, not a great percentage. I feel like I'm a little more accurate in the past, but it's been a few months since I've been playing, so maybe I'm a little rusty. Second Lieutenant Ni got 1 kill. Lieutenant Tan got 1 kill. Second Lieutenant D, no weapon fired. Lieutenant Colonel, nope. The other Second Lieutenant D got 1 kill. And then Lieutenant Bao, no weapon fired. So, incidentally, Second Lieutenant D, Lieutenant Bao, those are the 2 guys that were shot down, I think. And notice that there's 2 Lieutenant D's. D's nuts. Actually, I think I was pronouncing it die before. And, of course, that's not even right. That's technically everyone's first names. That's not their last names, which makes it even more confusing. But the game is not set up to handle the inversed Asian-style names. So, we know that. Let's move on to the roster. I now have 25 kills. And if we look down here, we get some good news. Lieutenant Nguyen, Duc Bao, he was shot down, but he returns to us as wounded. He was able to get out of the burning aircraft and survived, which means he was probably hit by guns, because missile hits usually result in KIAs, which unfortunately looks like is what happened to our other guy, Second Lieutenant Lam Kang Di, who was my number 4 man, killed in action, unfortunately. Beyond that, we had a couple of guys who each got 1 kill, but nobody's into the ace territory yet, so maybe next time. And as we just sort of skim through the log here, at 10:01, Lieutenant Tan... Lieutenant Tan! Ice cream, Lieutenant Tan! It's probably Tan. Jesus Christ. Fucking disregard that. I'm an idiot. Anyways, Lieutenant Tan destroyed the first A4C Skyhawk, 10:01. Lieutenant Ni got in the action. Yeah, 10:02. Second Lieutenant Ni destroyed another one of the A4Cs. I was firing a whole lot of misses. Oh, but finally, 10:03, Second Lieutenant Van Koch destroyed A4 Skyhawk. So we got 10:01 we got a kill, 10:02 we got a kill, 10:03 we got a kill. And then at the end of 10:03, I destroyed the second Skyhawk, so 2 Skyhawks within the same minute. So 10:03:58, F4B Phantom II fires a Sparrow at Lieutenant Bao, and then almost 20 seconds later, Lieutenant Bao, hit by AIM-7E Sparrow, shot down near Tanhua transshipment point. Oh shit, now wait a minute though, Lieutenant Bao, he's the guy that survived, he's wounded! I've never seen a missile hit where a guy survived. Never happens. It must have been a near miss. I wonder if it was a proximity detonation. Maybe the thing didn't hit him directly, but was enough to blow up the aircraft and he was able to eject. I've never ever seen that before, or if I have seen it, I haven't noticed. That proves that it is possible to survive a missile hit, which I did not think was possible. Now, unfortunately, we have down here, Second Lieutenant D was hit by a Sparrow, and he was shot down near Tanhua, and he did not survive. So we lost 2 guys, well, 2 aircraft down, we lost 1 pilot. We really did a number on a bunch of American aircraft today, so I would say a wild success, despite the loss of our aircraft. Really happy with this mission, how it turned out. I hope you liked it too. That is the end of our briefing. That wraps up this episode, this mission. I'm going to be continuing on in this campaign for a little while, putting them out when I am able, and I'm hoping to maybe make it regular, but, you know, who knows? Sometimes I like to go do other stuff too. So stay tuned. Come on back. We'll see you next time.